Hello, poker players. Welcome back to our hand review series. Today, we'll be analyzing a hand from a student played on WSOP.com at 50 no limit with blinds set at 50 and 25 cents. Let's dive right in. Our student opens the action from the button, raising to 2.5 big blinds. The small blind decides to call, indicating that they're likely a recreational player. Cold calling from the small blind is uncommon among solid regulars, most of which do not call out of the small blind at all. The flop brings a very dry board consisting of a pair of 10s and a 4. Our student makes a continuation bet of about 50% of the pot. I like betting since King 7 is a hand that benefits from denying equity and potentially bluffing the opponent off a better hand. However, I'd recommend that the student uses a smaller bet size, closer to 33%. By going smaller, our opponent needs to call with very weak-looking hands like King High to mitigate any potential advantage from our bet. A bet size around 75 cents or even smaller would be better. In wide-range situations, particularly in late position versus blind situations, we need to identify how we can manipulate our opponent's range based on the flop texture. On dry boards that are hard to hit, this means getting our opponent to overfold. The average player tends to evaluate absolute hand strength rather than considering relative hand strength. While in many cases, hands like backdoor straight and flush draws, like 9-8 suited, are very weak, these hands are actually strong enough to continue facing a small flop c-bet here. But the average player is going to fold a huge swath of this hand class. The turn brings the ace of hearts. Our student decides to bet 75% of the pot, which isn't terrible, but I believe checking would be a better choice for several reasons. First, we have a sliver of showdown value, which is improved by villain's likely river strategy. When our opponent happens to be holding a weak hand like Queen Jack that called flop with 2 overcards, theoretically, a ruthless solver would know that our range is severely weakened by betting flop and checking turn, and thus any air they hold on the river will bluff since our weak range will overfold. However, in reality, players fail to recognize aggressive bluffing situations like this, allowing us to check back and win at showdown on unchanging river textures when villain mistakenly gives up and gives us a free showdown. Secondly, I think a delayed bluff whenever villain checks river, if we check back turn, performs better than a double barrel on the turn. Villain's river probe strategy is likely straightforward, where the checking range is skewed weak and the betting range skewed strong. When villain checks, we're likely reaping more fold equity than we deserve when we bet as a bluff, and we could safely fold facing a bet since we don't even have a bluff catcher on most river cards. You can think of this as like giving villain rope to hang themselves, since deciding between bet and check is much harder to construct a strategy around compared to whether to mostly call or fold facing a bet like on the turn. To summarize, in order to become a poker puppeteer, we need to recognize how we can manipulate our opponent's range based on the board texture, and secondly, how to bring our opponents to parts of the game tree that are predictably blundered on. If you made it this far, you might be interested in personal coaching. You can check out criticalpoker.com for more details, or contact me directly at info@criticalpoker.com, or DM me at MNW on Discord. Until next time, keep honing your skills at the poker table. Good luck.